In over 3/4 of American homes, this is burned in one of these, and half of us grill at least 4 times a month. These are the favorite foods in order of popularity: hamburger, steak, and chicken. And they're grilled on everything from this handy little unit to this big bruiser, which is great, say, if you've invited 200 or 300 guests over for a Super Bowl party. Hi, I'm Merle Ellis, and I'd like to invite you on a peripatetic tour of outdoor cooking. Over the next hour, we'll cover a lot of delicious territory, from the River of No Return wilderness in Idaho to Nantucket Island, with a lot of tasty stops in between. And you'll see a variety of techniques and tips that will translate into your own backyard. So stoke up. It's time for Cook In, Cook Out. This is Islamorada, a small Florida Keys community south of Key Largo. Fishing is popular year-round, but these folks are enjoying the annual Redbone Celebrity Fishing Tournament, a charity event for cystic fibrosis. There are a number of sidebar happenings, including a Caribbean street festival where food stands offer such exotic dishes as coconut fried fish and conch fritters. A popular Caribbean spicing technique is now offered by Patty Sachs, a local caterer. It's her fiery version of jerk chicken. And though she will grill it on a restaurant unit, it will work easily on your home grill.
Okay, we're making a grilled jerk chicken. First, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of pepper melange, which is a mix of 5 different peppers. We're going to put in the processor and grind it.
The pepper mixture includes red, green, white, and black peppercorns.
Okay, it's just barely cracked. You want it in big pieces. We're going to add a half of a yellow onion. And a half of a jalapeno. Two teaspoons of thyme. 2 teaspoons of sugar, 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, and 2 tablespoons of oil. You'll puree that until it's kind of chunky and a little smooth. Makes enough marinade for 10 breasts of chicken. Just put chicken breast in the marinade. Let it soak for about 10 minutes, or up to 1 day also. The spicier, the longer the spicier. Okay, after it's marinated for 10 minutes, you dip it in some butter. Stand back while you put it on the grill.
On this commercial grill, the breasts cook in about 9 minutes. On your home grill, cooking time will depend on the heat of your coals. Here, Patty checks the breast and turns it 45 degrees to burn the crosshatch pattern or grill marks on the breast.
You want it slightly blackened, but not too dark.
This cooks another 2 or 3 minutes and then is plated up. Remember, with your home grill, temperature of your coals and even the outside temperature can affect cooking time. In the Caribbean, the hands-down favorite for jerk meat is pork, but Patty treats it differently with her water-smoked pork loin.
Okay, with a smoked pork tenderloin, you get whatever size. You can use a pork loin, you can use a pork tenderloin, whatever you want to do. It would work the same way. The cooking time would vary. Method is the same. I take about 3/4 of a cup of soy sauce. Just cover the pork with it. About the same amount of dark rum. And a lot of the Greek seasoning.
This is a commercial product, which is basically a salt infused with seasonings normally associated with Greek cookery. It's available at most supermarkets.
You'll want to marinate this for about 5 hours minimum. Make sure the pork is coated real good with the seasoning. And for those people that use the handy timers, you might as well take it out. It doesn't work when you're smoking meats. Turn it about every 15 or 20 minutes for the first hour, and then you can just let it sit and turn it every hour after that. The longer it marinates, the better it is. You can let it marinate up to 2 days. Okay, you want the coals to be glowing. You don't want them to be too burned out, so it's probably about a half an hour after you light the fire. Don't put your water in the bowl first. Put your bowl in the smoker, and you'll fill that with about 5 cups of water. But just very slowly pour your water into the smoker so that it doesn't boil over. You want it slightly under half full. Just lay the pork right on top of the grill. It takes about 12 hours. With a smaller piece, you can do a little pork tenderloin in about 5 hours. Beat up looking old smokers, but okay, these porks have been on for about 6 hours, and they'll probably need another 4. You want to feel it. If the meat's getting firm and the juices come out clear, then it's ready. That pork is not ready yet. The juices have to run clear with it.
And now Patty prepares the accompanying orange tahini sauce.
Cover it. This is an orange tahini sauce. It goes nicely with the smoked pork. It also goes nicely with lamb or any kind of grilled meats. We're going to add all the ingredients into the bowl and then whisk them together. This is a half a cup of peanut butter, chunky. A half a cup of the tahini sauce, which is a sesame seed paste. Two tablespoons of soy sauce. A tablespoon of rice wine vinegar. Quarter cup of orange juice, fresh squeezed. And that'll be about a whole orange. What you want to use is the zest from the orange. Just add that right into the sauce. About 4 teaspoons of garlic cloves, minced. Two tablespoons of hot pepper oil. 4 tablespoons of chicken broth. And 4 tablespoons of honey. You want to whisk these ingredients together. You want to start off slowly, otherwise you're going to end up with it all over the kitchen floor. It's kind of pasty at first. And you'll see as you start whisking it, the oils will begin to emulsify and it'll go into a nice sauce.
Incidentally, tahini can be found in health food stores.
Okay, as soon as you can't see the oil anymore, if there's no oil floating on the surface, your sauce is finished. You may want to whisk it just once or twice before you serve it, and that can be kept up to 2 weeks.
The state of Maine offers a variety of outdoor activities, many of which involve field cooking. From Freeport, the resident expert on outdoor cookery is Alex Delicata of the L.L. Bean Company. A self-proclaimed forager and chief chef, he prepares a fancy campside meal using wood as fuel and pan cooking directly on the grill. It's pheasant breast and pancakes. The pancakes will be cooked in rendered bacon fat. The bacon is moved to a smaller pan to the side of the fire.
Gonna mix a local pancake from Maine called ploys. It's a French Acadian type of pancake. It's mixed just with water. It contains buckwheat flour, wheat flour. It has no milk in it, so it's a very healthy type of food to eat. And the mix is just with water, so for a camping type of food, it's very simple and very easy. You can use it as a breakfast cake or as an accompaniment to a main meal. Ploys usually are not turned, but when you make them as a pancake, they're a little bit thicker, and they probably should be turned, and that's what I'm going to do. What I'm going to add to these right now is a little bit of wild rice left over from last night's supper, so that we'll have a little more nourishing breakfast, and I'll do a few more with some blueberries in them. The key to making a fire when you're cooking pancakes and things of that nature, since you're outdoors, you don't have a control knob to turn and up the heat or turn it down. So what you do is you add very small sticks. You should have your firewood cut real fine. What was known in the old days when people cooked on a wood stove, this is called biscuit wood because it burned hot, it burned fast, and you could control your fire just by adding a few sticks at a time. And the danger being that it would get very, very hot. So we don't want these to stick. I'm going to add a little bit of margarine. This is not your average backpacking skillet that we're using. This is definitely taken with you when you have a vehicle in which to carry it. These should not take very long to cook because the fire is hot, the skillet is hot.
The pheasant is seasoned.
We're going to add a little bit of basil, some powdered garlic.
The last seasoning is dried parsley.
There are any number of spices that you can add, but these are 3 easy ones to take with you. And when you're traveling like this, dried spices work a lot better than fresh ones because the weight being very critical.
After about a minute, the pancakes are turned.
Okay, let's check the bacon. Bacon is doing fine. We'll drain that later on some paper towels. These are dried blueberries, unless you happen to be in the right season that you can get them fresh. The dry ones are very handy. They're easy to package, they're lightweight. They cook up nicely. You can use them in pancakes, biscuits, muffins, whatever you have, whatever you're preparing. for the day. And those, I would say, are done. We'll put them over there to stay warm. This one's going to need a little more help. We'll put it over here. How's my fire doing? Looks like it's doing pretty good. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to disturb it. Get it upset. If I get it upset, it may not like me.
Water is added to the blueberry pancakes as before.
If you're a prudent cook on the trail, you make sure that you bring some dry firewood with you. You don't have to have a whole lot of it, but you take some with you because you may be stuck in a situation where you do have to get a fire going quickly. You do have to feed a hungry crew, and it's pretty hard to go looking for big dead standing trees that you're going to split open and peel the heart out of. So if you bring a bag full of real dry stuff with you and you stash it away, the morning or the afternoon or evening comes along that you need it, well, you've got it right there. There's no real big problem to getting it handy. Okay, our second batch of ploys, I'm going to add a little more margarine to that. Why? The tub margarine is because that it's easier to handle than sticks. Margarine really doesn't need all that much refrigeration. This time of year, you really don't have to refrigerate it at all. And it's very, very handy. It creates fewer problems for you than does the stick margarine or stick butter. Now let's see what we can do with the blueberry ploys. It's nice to have a skillet this big so you don't really have to struggle to produce a breakfast for 4, 5, 6, or 8. You can actually fry a dozen eggs in this thing at a time. A little extra vegetation. Nature always helps to provide. One thing I always carry in my wanigan is a sheet pan because it comes in handy when you're doing things like this. A wanigan is basically a provision box. There's all kinds of names for them, but that's an old camper's name. I'm going to set this over. Let me prop up a couple of sticks here so we can keep this warm. Remember, when you're cooking outdoors, you have no shelter over you. You've got to cook, you've got to be prepared, and you really can't let nature beat you at it. It's a little bit of a struggle. It takes a knack to get it done, but you can do it. Now, to the bacon fat that's in that skillet, I'm going to add just a little bit of margarine so that we have a good cooking medium. And since basil is one of my favorite spices, I'm going to add just a little bit of it to the hot oil. Now, you can make these breakfasts as intricate as you want or as simple as you want. It depends on your expertise. The thing that's scary about ploys when you cook them for the first time, they don't really brown nicely like pancakes do because it's buckwheat flour and it tends to brown a little more unevenly. So now I've got to add a few sticks to my fire here. We're going to turn the heat up a little bit, and that we don't lose the volume of heat that we need. Now I'm going to move that in a little closer. The ploys are done, the cakes are done. Now these, with the blueberries, when we get ready to serve them, we'll put them on a separate dish. We'll use syrup with those. Now, as with all game bird breasts, they have very little fat. They tend to dry very quickly. So the key is to cook them quickly. And all you have to do is make sure that the transparency or the translucency is gone. And like fish, breast meat of any bird is done when the transparency is gone.
After about a minute and a half, the breasts are turned.
Now this is a tough time of year because the weather can turn like this when you're starting to get your meal done. So if you got the chance to rig a tarp up over your cook fire, that'll protect the chef and the fire.
The blueberry pancakes are ready to serve.
What we're going to do with those is we're going to pour some good, sweet Maine maple syrup over the top. And don't worry about getting a little extra sugar in your diet when you're out on a trip like this. You're going to burn it off as fast as you can take it in.
The finished breasts are presented with bacon and wild rice pancakes.
Now, I'm not a fancier of super crisp bacon. I kind of like the bacon soft. I suppose for dietary purposes you should cook it as crisp as you can, but something gets lost there in the translation. And there go the fingers, because they were invented before knives and forks anyway. And that can be your bread, the bread portion of your meal. Now there's a couple of breakfast ideas that should keep you cranking for a couple hours, splitting wood or paddling a canoe.
Sooner or later, everything in America gets competitive, and barbecue is no exception. In Vienna, Georgia, the Volunteer Fire Department is one of hundreds of barbecue teams that crisscross the country to compete in cook-offs. When it comes to ribs, they are sort of the Dallas Cowboys of barbecue. But Kenny Calhoun offers a departure from the typical barbecue with his grilled dove breasts.
Okay, what we're going to do here today is put together a marinade for some dove, and first thing you need to have if you're going to do this thing is you need to have some dove, and preferably they need to be fresh. These are just dove breasts, and they were shot here locally, but to get a good fresh dove you need to take care of it in the field. That means getting it on ice as soon as possible, getting it dressed as soon as possible. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put together a marinade that before we put them on the grill, that you'll need to soak them in for just a couple of hours. And we're going to start off with a little zesty Italian salad dressing. Just pour that in a bowl. Just one bottle will get you started there. And then want to add about a half a cup of soy sauce. You don't really measure it, just do it to taste. Then you want to add Blue Nun red wine. Some people prefer cooking wine, but we use the real stuff here. This is then we go with just a pinch of tarragon, a sprinkling of rosemary, garlic salt to taste, a little onion salt to taste, about a tablespoon of Worcestershire. And then, because it's a game bird and it is very athletic, could be a little bit on the tough side, we'll add a little bit of tenderizer to enhance flavor and to tenderize it a little bit. And then make sure we stir it good to get all the flavors blended in. And then you just kind of pour it over here, and we've got the doves in a deep dish here where they can be covered. And you want to stir them around a little bit to make sure that the oil in the salad dressing and the soy sauce stays blended. And then you can leave them in there 2 hours, if you want to leave them in there 6 hours or whatever. Take them out individually, and because the bird is a very athletic bird, is a lean game bird and doesn't have very much body fat, we'll wrap this in a breakfast type, real thin sliced bacon before we add it to the grill to help seal in the juices and also to moisturize the bird as it cooks. And we'll place these on the grill and cook at a medium heat of about 250 degrees for approximately 45 minutes or until they are to desired doneness. If you use whole birds, it may take a little bit longer. It might take as long as an hour because the whole bird is a little bit thicker and a little bit heavier. But what we're going to be doing is we've got most of the heat on one end of the grill, and we're going to start at the middle and work our way back away from the heat and sort of check them along as they cook so that we can control. Some of the birds will be a little bit larger and some of them a little bit smaller, and we'll kind of move them around through the cooking process, but most of them will be done within 45 minutes.
A tasty side dish for the dove is presented by Sue Calhoun. It's grilled stuffed tomatoes.
You serrate around the top on the stem end of the tomato, and then you simply lift the top off, and then what you're going to do is just scoop the pulp out into a bowl, Okay, you want to leave enough of the pulp in the tomato so it'll be firm, but to hold up on the grill. The next thing you do is you take about a half a teaspoon of seasoning salt, a fourth a teaspoon of seasoning pepper, a shake of like red cayenne pepper or red pepper, a little bit of hot sauce to taste. If you like it hot, add a little bit more. And then about a third a cup of something like Russian or Catalina salad dressing. And last is some breadcrumbs. Now, depending on if you wanted Italian, these are Italian style breadcrumbs. You could use cheese flavored breadcrumbs. You need about half a cup. Okay. If it's not quite a thick enough consistency to hold up and be firm in the tomato, you'd want to sprinkle a few more breadcrumbs into the mixture. It would need to be about this consistency when you got through. And then what you do is you go back to your tomato shell and you just simply dip the mixture into the tomatoes. And what you do then is you just put them on the grill for about 10 to 15 minutes, and the key there is not to overcook them because you just want them to set more or less.
Russ Francis, the pro football player, remembers a fairly maniacal Patriots fan who threw a hibachi out of the stands with hot coals in it. Less pathological cooking goes on outside the stadiums, where the tailgate party has become part of football culture. From Jackson, Mississippi, cooking teacher Shan Patterson offers a trio of upscale tailgate dishes, beginning with grilled pork tenderloin. Note that most of the prep can be done a day ahead.
These are going to be marinated pork tenderloins that we're going to cook on the grill later. We can marinate them overnight, so this is something that can be done ahead of time. Just going to remove the excess fat, as much visible fat as possible, and the silver skin. And then we're going to start with putting these ingredients together. We're going to use fresh ginger root, which we peeled and then chopped, and we're going to use some fresh garlic, which we're going to chop. I'm going to use this little mini processor here. It's real easy to chop things like 1 or 2 cloves of garlic when you have such a small amount. We'll start just by putting our minced garlic and our fresh ginger root together. The nice thing about this is that it can be done the day ahead and just left in the refrigerator overnight, and then just pull them out to be put on the grill. We use about 1/3 cup of the hoisin.
Hoisin is also called Peking sauce and can be found in Oriental food stores.
These, after being marinated, will come out a really dark, nice color with the molasses and the hoisin. The hoisin is so dark. This is about 1/3 cup of molasses.
The mixture is thinned out with a little water before the final ingredients go in.
And just a little pinch of salt to finish it off. And a little soy. Then the best way I find to marinate these is to use a Ziploc bag. Now, I am going to add a little bit of mint to this. This is fresh mint that we take off the stem. The stem is a little tough, so we want to take that off.
The chopped mint goes into the marinade right before the bag is filled.
And bruise it pretty well so that we get the maximum flavor from it. Probably a good idea to set this inside a bowl so that it doesn't tump over. But make sure that all the marinade gets down in there, and then we want to get the excess air out as much as possible so that all sides will marinate. Make sure that it's tightly closed, and then just work it around so that all the marinade covers the meat. And then we'll just send that away to the refrigerator overnight and then take it out and put over the coals for the party tomorrow.
The tenderloins go on a fairly hot grill, so they need to be turned regularly. Grill until the internal temperature is 160 degrees.
And what we'll do is once the pork tenderloins are ready, we'll slice them really thinly on the bias and put them in rolls with mustards and mayonnaises and some condiments to your liking.
Another dish at the tailgate party is grilled chicken, cut into a large dice and served in a savory sauce, which is also made the day before.
We start out with some balsamic vinegar, a couple of tablespoons. These are some unlikely ingredients to be combined, but we're going to go with some mayonnaise, just plain mayonnaise, about 10 tablespoons. And some fresh lemon juice, a couple of tablespoons.
The sauce is then seasoned with a little salt and black pepper.
Here again, according to your taste, obviously like it. Tablespoon of sugar. And we just mix all these together and let it simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then grill our chicken and cut it into cubes and put it into the sauce and serve it with pigs. That's a very unusual combination, but delicious. Nobody can figure out what it is once we've put it together. I find it easy to put the chicken or the fish into a grill basket, and that allows us to turn it all at one time instead of turn it individually. So this is what we do, put it in the basket.
The breasts cook very fast on this hot grill, about 2 minutes per side. Note they are not seasoned before going over the fire, since the finished breasts will go into the sauce. Seasoning is not necessary.
Once our chicken is grilled, all we have to do, since we've prepared the sauce, is just to cut it into bite-sized pieces. Then add it to the sauce, and then put it in a chafing dish or something that will keep it warm underneath. Bite-sized pieces is always nice to do so that everybody can mix it in.
Our last tailgate dish is a sort of build-your-own operation featuring one of Mississippi's culinary jewels, farm-raised catfish.
Now, and with a fillet, there's a different thickness, so one thing that you can do to make it cook evenly is tuck the little fillet in under like that, and that makes it an even layer so that it's not overcooked in one area.
The fillets are sprinkled with seafood seasoning, readily available in most supermarkets.
And what we'll do with this after it's cooked is we'll flake it and mix it with cream cheese and green onions and have it on some toast. Looks like it's going to cook pretty fast here. We'll turn it over. You see this white here, beginning to flake. When you're cooking fish, one of the things to remember is you want to catch it when it's beginning to flake and not when it flakes easily, because when it flakes easily, it's too overdone. So we will cook it on the other side now. And this is cooked just right. It's not overcooked. It's really moist and nice. And we'll put this in our plate. And what we'll do with this is spoon it with our condiments. We have chopped green onions, sour cream or cream cheese, and some horseradish. And it's nice to serve this on some French bread or just toast points. You can use any kind of bread you want, really, or crackers. But it's nice to just serve it on little pieces of bread, like so. And you just put it onto the bread and put whatever you like on it. That's the nice thing about this, is that you can build your own.
In New Orleans, indeed throughout Louisiana, the principal outdoor cooking incident uses what most of the country regards as bait and boils them as an entree. A crawfish boil is to Louisiana what a clam bake is to New England. This one, at a local golf tournament, is organized on a gargantuan scale by caterer Axel Strombo. Butane jets generating some 300,000 BTUs bring 100 gallons of water to boil in 20 minutes. Chef Strombo does a little heating himself with spices measured by the handful.
Liquid crab boil. Use about a half a gallon of this. We're going to do 1,000 pounds of crawfish in this pot. This is red hot pepper. Extra hot. That stuff's rated 180,000 heat units. 180,000 BTU heat units. Hot stuff.
Ignore the proportions here and concentrate on the types of seasoning and flavors used.
Put about a half a case of lemon in every pot, every boil.
These pool-sized boiling pots are obviously not the norm. Smaller units suitable for home use are readily available. Crawfish, as well as shrimp, can take a lot of salt. Don't forget they are usually served chilled or at room temperature.
All right, now we're going to throw a little bay leaf in there. A little dried up bay leaf.
Garlic heads are halved.
Cut up about almost 20 pounds of garlic to put in that pot.
The garlic theme will be reinforced with granulated garlic too. As Axel stirs the brine, his reaction suggests the heat from the super red pepper. Another smaller unit is used for new potatoes.
I'm going to throw the potatoes in here. That way it'll be easier. When you got so many crawfish, you can throw the potatoes in with the crawfish. But when you have so many crawfish to boil, it's hard to pick the potatoes out. So we're going to use the same seasoning in this pot as we did in the boiling pots. And we'll just put the potatoes in here, and then we'll take them out, and we'll be able to serve them a lot faster instead of digging through the crawfish to find the potatoes. Throw the granulated garlic in here. Put a little better garlic flavor. All right, we're going to put in 1,000 pounds of crawfish. We're going to use 25 pounds of salt. We use 3 pounds of this extra hot pepper. And then, of course, a case of lemons, almost a case of garlic, and about 2 pounds of bay leaf, 3 pounds of bay leaf. Now we're going to throw 1,000 pounds of crawfish in this pot and let it come to a boil.
The crawfish are brought to a boil, the heat is cut, and they steep in this spicy brine. A variety of vegetables are added at appropriate intervals and are served with the crawfish. Chef Strombo uses a fairly direct method for testing his seasonings.
Got 4 more? Give me a cup. Give me one of the plastic cups. Taste the water. I'll probably light up. Let's cut this. Woo! They got pepper.
There are 3,000 pounds of crawfish in both pots and will serve 500 people. The huge pots are covered and the new potatoes go into a similarly seasoned brine.
Ugh. Watch out.
Finally, pre-cooked corn on the cob finishes the boil. It will soak up a good deal of the seasoning, and at serving time, it's safe to say, will have become very distinctive corn.
Huh? No. Whoop. Here we go, loop-de-la. Frozen corn. will help sink the crawfish, which will help suck up the seasoning of the water. Usually, once the crawfish sink into the water, they're ready to eat.
Of course, a sampling by some of Axel's associates is in order. See you suck the fat from the head before you eat the tail meat.
Then we'll fool them again.
Now, enjoy Chef
wear me
Axel's
out.
Louisiana crawfish boil. This is the rugged Sawtooth Mountain Range in central Idaho. Part of the region includes the middle fork of the Salmon River. It's the river of no return federal wilderness area, the largest in the continental United States. So unless you're fond of 100-mile hikes, there are only a couple of ways to see the middle fork of the Salmon River. This is one, and here's the other. Bob Porter, an orthopedic surgeon in Twin Falls, is also a licensed Idaho outfitter on the Middle Fork.
And then we're going to have to...
For over 15 years, his company, Middle Fork Rapid Transit, has taken numberless groups of whitewater rafting excursions. The Middle Fork of the Salmon River runs south to north and can be very exciting under the right conditions. The float is a 100-mile, 6-day trip covering about 18 miles a day. This means, among other things, the floating clients have to be fed 3 times a day. This poses formidable logistics, given the Forest Service stringent camping regulations. It also requires a well-organized cooking plan that Dr. Porter has fine-tuned over the years.
So when we leave on one of these river trips, we have all our equipment, all our food with us. And as these have evolved, rather than damage the environment, they have decided that everything that we bring in, we have to take out. And that includes every gum wrapper, every cigarette butt, every piece of food that isn't used, and all that is boxed up in some way or another, and we float out with that. I've tried to figure out a menu where we eat almost every single thing. Our steaks have no bones in them now. Our fish are all fillets, and most everything we have is consumable. Our coolers are layered according to what day of the week, and we know from day one what we're going to have to eat, and so we put the steaks, which we had the last night, on the bottom, and then we layer the coolers, and we usually start with fish that thaws out fairly easily. We're able to go the full 6 days and still have frozen meat without any extra ice. The meat actually acts as ice.
Since this is the first night out, Idaho salmon fillets, which were marinated in Italian salad dressing, are on the menu. They are grilled quickly over charcoal, skin side down. Leaving the skin on will prevent shrinkage. The grill was brushed with vegetable shortening to keep the fillets from sticking. As the fillets come off the grill, they are held in a greased Dutch oven, topped with a sort of wine butter almondine sauce. After turning, the skin is removed. Incidentally, although fishing is allowed on the float trip, this is the closest that any rafters are going to come to cooked salmon. It's catch and release on the Middle Fork.
There's something about wilderness and eating. The appetites grow during the day as you're rafting, not that you're working that hard. And people are absolutely flabbergasted by the food. One of our very first meals used to be hamburgers, until I realized that these people are traveling from all over the country to get to Idaho, and they've already had 3 hamburgers in the airport or somewhere along the line. So we dropped the hamburgers rapidly.
Waking up in the woods is not all that it's cracked up to be. The guides have already started breakfast, and at least one has to work his morning routine into the breakfast preparation. And this morning, breakfast is nothing to sneeze at, in or out of the woods. It includes melon, and of all things, eggs Benedict, complete with slices of pre-cooked ham that have been warmed over a propane burner in a Dutch oven, English muffins done on a griddle, and of course poached eggs cooked in a muffin pan which has been sprayed with vegetable oil. The hollandaise sauce is a good quality commercial dry mix that's mixed with melted butter and cold milk. The method of poaching eggs in the field is pretty ingenious. The muffin pans are stacked in a Dutch oven and steamed. The oven is covered, and as we will see, the eggs tend to cook from the bottom up and are rotated at regular intervals. This is pretty fancy fare, particularly when you see that young college kids are pulling it off. They obviously learn more than just schlepping equipment and traversing whitewater.
These kids have never cooked in their lives, except maybe around the house or to fry a hamburger, and they become very good at it. They don't always have the taste that I like, and I'll walk through the kitchen and say, you know, add a little bit of onions here and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But by the end of the summer, they become excellent cooks, and they find out when they go back to college that they become the cooks for the parties they have.
While the campers enjoy their alfresco eggs Benedict, the guides are already dismantling the cooking equipment and preparing for lunch, which is 3 hours and a few miles away. Nice catch. This boat, loaded with the field kitchen, floats on ahead of the rest to set up at the next campsite. The quintessence of outdoor feasting may be the New England clam bake, where, by the way, clams are always served, but nothing is ever baked. This is Nantucket Island, Massachusetts, where we will follow a clam bake from ground zero, as it were, to its delectable finale. Featured are steamed clams, mussels, lobsters, corn, and other vegetables. Some 6 hours before serving, Susan Warner of the Nantucket Clam Bake Company prepares the steaming pit. After it is dug, charcoal is lit and burned to a gray ash. But as you'll see, it's not the charcoal that fuels the cooking. The corn does double duty. After the silk is removed, it will be steamed in its inner husks. The outer husks are soaked in water overnight and will aid in the steaming process. The crown jewels of this clam bake are these live lobsters, but any sort of shellfish, crabs, or even chicken can be used. For this bake, Susan will deal with chicken a little differently. She's preparing a small unit on the side to barbecue over direct heat. Part of the prep is removing the beard or tough fibers attached to the mussel shells. After steaming, they will be tossed in an herb butter. All the foods are steamed in these wire-bottom containers. The keystone of a clam bake is heating the rocks, which when covered with rockweed, soaked corn husks, and tarps, steam the food. The rocks are more or less equal-sized and dry. Wet rocks or shale could explode. After one of the wooden pallets burns down, another will be added. It's interesting to note that this steaming method is basically the same one that the Native Americans taught to the Pilgrims.
Yes. Yep.
Susan is warming up a little classic New England clam chowder. An unusual touch is flavoring it with dill.
It's the Quahog's chowder. But we have a dill. We season it with dill. It's onions and bliss potatoes that are not peeled, and it's a cream base that we add it to. And they're Nantucket Quahogs.
There are 3 kinds of clams offered at this outing. Quahog, which are larger and yield tougher meat, are usually chopped or ground for chowder. And then these smaller, more tender ones, called little necks, are eaten raw, with a little Louisiana-style oyster sauce. By the way, little necks do not have necks, but the steamers, those that will be cooked over the rocks, do. To the uninitiated, it's puzzling, but delicious. Barbecued chicken offers a nice foil to all the steamed seafood. It's coated with a mixture of barbecue sauce and beer. A total of 7 pallets will be burned. It takes about 3 hours to sufficiently heat the rocks. The steaming temperature will be around 225 degrees. Once the rocks are ready, the action gets pretty fast and furious. It's important to get the food covered quickly.
Okay, right now what we're trying to do is get the ashes out and just leave the rocks, because the rocks are really what's supposed to cook in a clam bake, not the coals. And that'll, if you have coals cook, it'll make it a smokier taste. So these rocks are really hot, and we're trying to do this as fast as possible not to lose heat. And what we'll do next is we've had this rockweed, which is has pockets of moisture in it. And when the rockweed hits the rocks and drips the moisture on it, it's going to produce the steam to cook the seafood. And this is the rockweed. But you can start getting ready for the corn husk. Okay, yep. What we do is we've been soaking the corn husk. You can put rockweed on top or corn husk. And I'll just add a little more moisture. And then we put in a soaked tarp on top. Do we have the wrong? Yeah.
Hold it over a little.
And the tarp will seal in that steam in about 45 minutes. Everything will be steamed cook. Split the tails, cut the claws, toss the mussels in a herb butter.
Delicious. I really don't want to hold up, but it's not doing that. I got it. Steamers?
It took a while, but as they say, half the fun was getting here. We leave this genial setting with what in TV lingo is called a beauty shot. You know, all the clam-baked food artfully arranged in front of the gently lapping waves. Unfortunately, the ocean, immutable as always, changed it to a burial at sea.
Don't worry about the food. Don't worry, you can
In about 2 minutes, I'm going.
If you would like a video transcript of this show, send a check to the address on your screen or call 1-800-321-1499. The total cost is $18.90, including shipping and handling.
This program is made possible by annual financial support from viewers like you.
This is PBS.